Welcome, viewers, to this edition of the Chronicles Insight. In our studio today, we have Marian. Marian is the executive director of Gambia Participate, an organization that deals with fighting corruption, transparency, and accountability in this country. Mar, thank you and welcome in our studios.
Thank you, Frederick. I'm glad to be here.
It's our pleasure. Mar, in May 2020, your organization published the results of an investigation into the flux of money that came in the Gambia to support the government in fighting coronavirus. Where are you with that investigation?
Yes, as you rightly mentioned, in 2020, somewhere in between April and May, we published a report called Corona, the Gambia and the Millions, and the rationale behind it is because we know the health system has a very chronic corruption in it. And if you can recall, somewhere in 2018, there was a Minister of Health called Safilo Sise, who said corruption was retarding the development of the health sector. And as a result of the Ebola epidemic that also happened somewhere in 2014, and the money that we are, sidelined for the control of that particular epidemic was mismanaged, even though we did not have any positive case of Ebola. So that was the rationale that motivated us to, activate that particular investigation in order to ensure if this particular money was being used judiciously, and within a short period of time, if you read the report, you could actually see massive maladministration. So right after that, we did not only prepare investigation and put it online. What we've done was we also have a video aspect of it for people to visualize the current, the status as it was of these identified treatment centers, COVID-19 treatment centers. We really, one of which is not even feasible or is not fit to receive an insane person. So that also helped in citizens visualizing the impact of that particular identified treatment center. So once it was reported, we did a video documentary of it, and then we took it to the Ministry of Finance, and then that of the Ministry of Health and National Audit Office, and then that of National Assembly. Each parliamentarian, I think we submitted somewhere about 50 to 60 copies of that particular report, so that each parliament can have a copy and then get to know what is going on in someone, the minister. But really, since then, we haven't seen any action being taken. We've been following up with the National Audit Office, and they told us that they are mounting a special audit on COVID-19 funds.
But the Minister of Health too said that this was May 2020, that June 2020, that an audit will be carried out, and then from there they will get back to you. Have they done that?
We haven't seen any audit report or any special audit report that has been done on COVID-19 funds. And then also we learned that in May 11th, 2020, the Minister of Finance did a publication regarding the itemized expenditure of COVID-19 funds. And then we were very quick to collect that information. We did our comparative analysis based on what was reported by the Minister of Health at the National Assembly and what was reported by the Minister of Health, by the Minister of Finance. And when we did our comparative analysis, we realized there was a discrepancies of $1 million, which we could not comprehend. And this itemized expenditure report corresponds to that of the Ministry of Health, the same items but different figures. So we did our infographic and put it out there, but since then we have not been seeing itemized expenditure coming after that. We have not seen any report on COVID-19 expenditures. The only thing that we see is the monthly expenditure report, and as of December, what we've seen is 1.6 billion was expended on COVID-19. That was the total amount, but where it went, it was not reported.
And actually you have less center than before. Well, let's hope that someone somewhere is hearing and that they will get back to us. But does that not take us to the fact that the legal framework in the Gambia in fighting corruption is weak?
We need to, revisit our legal tools or, the mechanisms that are there to that are supposed to strengthen the fight against corruption. We do have some laws like the criminal code, and then also the anti-money laundering, and then the constitution as well, the code of conduct, but these laws are not really kind of specific in terms of combating corruption. And then when it comes to the definition of sanctions, for example, if there is a corruption act and someone is guilty of corruption, what is going to be the sanction that will impose either on individual or on institution? So these are some of the things that are lacking. We did a research on that, the Gambia's legal, Gambia's commitment. We call the report the Gambia's anti-corruption commitments and its effort in fulfilling them. So we look at the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, which Gambia has ratified, and then the African Union Prevention and Combating of Corruption, the ECOWAS Protocol on the fight against corruption, and the FAF20 recommendations, and some regional recommendations that treaties that the Gambia has ratified. So when you look at our legal framework, we do have some good laws, especially in the area of election financing, but it does not specify, for example, if elections are being financed through corruption proceeds, what are some of the sanctions that should be imposed to that particular party or individual? So, and some penalties are very linear, sometimes about 25,000. I mean, someone is making through corruption proceeds millions of dollars, and all that they have to pay is 25. So you're actually giving ways for corruption to be diversified in the public sector. So yes, we need to make sure that we revisit and then come up with new laws, like that of the anti-corruption bill that has been tabled by the Minister of Justice in December 2019.
Yeah.
And we also, as a civil society organization that works around issue of corruption, what we've done, we brought parliamentarians, brought media, civil society, and then some legal experts, drafters, and then also an anti-corruption expert, both local and outside the country. I mean, even though outside the country, but they are Gambians, to look at this bill and then identify some gaps that compromises the independence of that particular institution. And we did, it was a 2-day retreat, and after that we provided our recommendations to Parliament for them to look at our recommendation from the Gambian civil society, media, and individuals, and then also revisit certain provisions in the bill. For example, in the area of appointment of commissioners, the president appoints in consultation with the Public Service Commission.
The bill you're talking about specifically is the bill on anti-corruption commission.
Yes.
Because we already have the act since Yahya Jammeh time, that is 2012.
Yes.
Now, to set up a commission that will enforce all those regulations with regards to corruption, that's where the problem lies.
Yeah.
It is still at National Assembly since December 2019.
Yeah, I mean, the one that Jammeh legislated, I keep telling my people, that was just a move to tick the box as one of the few countries that have legislated an anti-corruption law, so that the United Nations... In theory. So, but that was not really effective, and that's the reason why they come up with this 2019 anti-corruption bill that will repeal the 2012 Anti-Corruption Commissions Act. So this one is still progressive, and it has some provision that corresponds to these regional and international treaties, but still there are certain provisions that, if not amended and if it is legislated as it is, it will really compromise the independence. It won't serve the purpose. Yes, it wouldn't serve the purpose. It will really compromise the independence of the anti-corruption commission. Some of the good things that we've seen is whistleblower protection. We've been talking about the public servants coming out, giving information, but and then one of the things that it has captured is protecting the identity of whistleblowers, which is very important.
Yeah, we will come to that because it's one important aspect in this interview. You're talking about money laundering. Recently, we have drug trafficking busted in the country twice, 3 times. We can see also real estate develop everywhere. We can see buildings flourishing everywhere. But when you look at the economy of this country, you wonder how this money comes into the country and how it is quickly invested into something like that. And as you said, it's an electoral year. Don't you think that it is another reason for civil society organizations like yours to put more pressure on authorities to get this bill enacted?
Yeah, one of the most complex corruption transaction is money laundering. Those that are engaging in are very smart, that they outsmart some of these authorities, and as you said, it's also civil society and media that have to take up this responsibility, because one thing that they will do once they plunder public wealth and then onto all the drug dealings and the likes, they launder the money and they clean it in some businesses, and these businesses, once they are there, they keep making money. So this is how they clean the money, but the original, how to call it, source of the money is not known. And both local and international civil society organizations have been finding it very difficult, because sometimes also how they, I mean, there's also what we call illicit financial flow. What they will do after sourcing or illicitly using public wealth through, and then also maybe perhaps through drug dealing and the likes, they will, transfer the money to a foreign account, right, or to invest in a foreign business without them being named in the process. So they will use a family, friend, one individual, or sometimes, we've seen also in areas where they will establish businesses, but the business does not have any physical address, neither a staff, but they will be trading through that business, but their name will not be shown.
And the Gambia is more and more recognized now as a kind of fiscal haven because of these shady transactions.
Yeah.
These companies, offshore companies, these flow of money that we never know where they come from.
Definitely, because that's the environment that we've given them. I mean, you can come and register your business, and then the business is redundant. I mean, for us, if you go to, if you conduct your company site, you just see the company, and it's okay. They claim their address to be here. You go to that particular address, it's not existing, right? So, but then the most important thing is go to the bank and then look at the account and some of the transactions that they have been going. If the banks are able to give you that information, or if the central bank, and then that of the financial intelligence unit conduct an investigation, because they will have the mandate to subpoena certain documents and then get to understand if they suspect certain company or individual, they should be able to have that information, and that information from the bank should be able to highlight all the transactions. A company that claimed not to be in existence have been making these millions of dollars, if I can put it that way, exporting and then importing, but the real owner is not known.
It's worrying with the number of investors that we see getting into state house and coming out. So this is one level of the corruption. And recently, you also talked about, you invited the media to talk about the Rosewood trafficking in the country. Like Gambia is used as a platform to export rosewood from Casamance, illegally obtained in Casamance, and illegally exported in Asia. Yes. How do you estimate the amount of that traffic in the Gambia?
Yes. So that report about that investigation was done by Environmental Investigation Agency. And then once it was reported, we look into the report, and then we believe, it's important for us to disseminate that information for people to get to understand what is really going on the ground. And as well calling authorities. That's the reason why we brought the Ministry of Environment, we brought the Gambia Post of Authority and the National Assembly during the press conference, for us to tell them, look, this is what is happening, and certain transactions you might be aware of such, and this is illegal. And these are endangered species. I am not an environmental specialist, but we are looking at the corruption part. If you look at the report, it states that if you look at the report that the Gambia has made based on the amount of money that they have been made during that period and that of China, there was a discrepancy. There was a difference of $471 million US. In dollars, that will be around $25 billion. And if you look at our 2019 budget, our whole total revenue and grants, both tax, non-tax, and programs, is about what, $25 billion. So that, looking at the Rosewood transaction within that period of time, 471 million, that equivalents to our 1 year estimated revenue. It raises red flags, and that also keep making us asking questions. Are we really looking at our revenue generating institutions, especially in the mining side? We have a lot of mining going in our both extractive and non-extractives, but we hardly see this in our budget. So all these millions that have been made, millions of dollars that have been made are not reported in our revenue. And we keep taking debts. I mean, for this year, our deficit is about what? $5.9 billion.
About extractive industries, the Gambia is not part of the initiative on transparency of extractive industries. I think that is one leverage civil society organizations like yours can activate to get the Gambia there, because if you are in, you are compelled by law to publish the contracts, to show about all those transactions. But meanwhile, let's have a small break and we will show you a question by one of our listeners, one of our viewers, who would ask you a question directly. That's the purpose of this Chronicle Insight.
My name is Abdullah Iba. My first question will be, according to a report that you released some couple of months ago, you stated that clearly that this timber deal, the rebels are using this money as a sources of funding. How did you come to that conclusion? According to the same reports, if I read thoroughly, we want to learn whether the ministry that is in charge of issuing timber license, since you released this report, whether they are still issuing license to timber dealers.
Yes, thank you for that question. Yes, it is stated in the report, the Casting in on Chaos report, that there was a ban on the, the exploitation of endangered species, to be specific, the timber,
Rosewood.
the rosewoods. But there was also a ban when President Barrow came into office in January 2017. Immediately after that, 1 month later, in February, there was a ban for to stop all illicit timber exploitation. But we've been seeing, that ban being lifted by the Ministry of Environment. In fact, in the report, you will see a letter that was dated in December 2019, if I am right, where, there was some, containers or some rosewoods that were already confiscated, or should I say that were parked aside pending the decision of the government. And as a result, according to the letter, as a result of conversation that was going between the timber owners and then that of the Ministry of Environment, they decided that they will give them the go-ahead for them to export. So we've been seeing that ban being, if I can put it, they were dribbling it. Right? Today there is a ban, there is a negotiation between the government and the timber dealers, and it's lifted. And right after that, the ban comes again. So it's not something that is consistent, and the reports are there, the evidence are there from the government. So the investigators did very well in making sure that they lay their hands in that.
And the second question?
So the second question, if I can get it right, is about the customers and then that of the rebels, how they get their source of funding. So you will, if you look at these rebels and how they operate, their main source of funding does not come from the government. Does not, except if there is someone, an insider in the government, who wanted to reinforce the fight for his or her personal interest and start giving money. But for the case of this MFDC, what the investigators have realized is they are, and then there's, it's also good to also highlight that in the investigation there is a secret video. And in this secret video, the transporters or those that are dealing in this business did mention that they are working with the rebels. And the rebels are the ones that are protecting this business. And this is of huge interest and benefit for them, because this is where they get their support to buy arms and the like in order to fight for what they have been fighting for. So in that secret video, I will refer you to that website, or just type casting in on chaos report. You will see a secret video that explains exactly how these rebels were interested in this business. Because for them to also strengthen their, their base and their force, they need arms. And this arms is not going to come to them for free, right? They have to have a source of funding. So this has been one of the ways that they've been making money for it.
So basically, the trees come into the Gambia because the Gambia is a safe haven to export.
Very good. That is it, because Senegal already have a very strict law that prohibits the exportation of this rosewood or endangered species from Senegal to other countries. But in the Gambia, the restrictions, should I say, the laws and authorities that are supposed to enforce these restrictions are very, I mean, if I can put it this way, they are very complacent to the fact that these Chinese, or should I say the ones that are benefiting from this, will have to go to customers, get the Rosewood, and then transport it to Gambia. I mean, it's public knowledge. You go all the way to, sometimes to Buyam, you will see tons of Rosewood being packed, and then some trucks using the back way. But the most important thing is, how does it make itself to the port? There is no back way from customers to Banjul. You must go through the highway, and authorities are informed about the endangered species and the bans that are already being made from the government. But every truck have a token, right? When you reach to a certain checkpoint, there is a token. You're gone, and it makes itself to the port. So the chain itself is complicated to the fact that the authorities that are supposed to prohibit it are actually benefiting from it. So it's really making us to be very vulnerable. And like I said, these are species that do not regenerate in a very short period of time. It takes very long time for them to regenerate. And then we keep hearing our indigents in the local communities complaining of climate change, and then lack of rain, and lack of bumper harvest and the likes. And they've been complaining about the deforestation, and this is not done by them. So they literally do not have any role or any power to stop this deforestation, because the ones that are supposed to stop it are actually encouraging it.
And some will tell you, well, why would we mine in the Gambia? We don't care. In as much as it's not in our forest, it is coming from customers. We don't mind. Is that a correct reasoning? Correct?
No, it is not, because if you look at the map, Casamas is here, and then we have Gambia all the way here. So anything, if there's deforestation in Casamas and there is short rainfall, if it affects Casamas, it will affect the Gambia. I mean,
more even.
I mean, like they said, Senegal is here. We're just a thumb in Senegal. So I mean, protecting the forest in Senegal also means protecting the interest of the Gambia when it comes to advocating for bumper harvest in terms of agriculture and the like, and then also climate change. And mind you, I'm not an expert, environmental expert, but I know one thing that I know for fact is forestry also protects this flood and the like, because of the trees that are heavily planted on the ground. So I don't think that is a very good analysis. In fact, it's a very bad one, because you wouldn't realize until there is a heavy deforestation in Senegal, then they will come to Gambia. You understand? Take what belongs to us and then take it back.
Yes.
So
in fact, when you have deforestation and difficult condition of living in those areas, in those rural areas in Casamas, people migrate and come to the Gambia.
Yeah.
To
and
look
you can control that.
pasture.
Yeah, you can control
that. Second question.
Assalamu alaikum, man la Noreyni Ñang man nag dama amoon ñetti laaj yu may laaj si mbir mi. Benn bi mooy li nga xam ne moo xew foofu ci Casamance di bant yi nga xam ne ñëpp ci la ñuy coow war naa dugg warta dugg ñan ñoo koy jaay ñu bëri ne nag rebelle yi ñoo koy jaay ñi nga xam ne mooy businessman yu Gambien yi dem foofu. Waaw lu tax soldaaru Sénégal duñ mën a jàpp ñooñu ca Casamance wala bala ñoo dugg Gambie, waaye lu ci ëpp daal dañ leen bàyyi ba ñu ñëw ba Gambia ba biir Kaama sax wala ñu ne agsi nañ ba Bakaw ñu fekk leen fa nangu bant yi jaay leen doole daal maanaam comme ni ko ngeen joxe loolu lan moo ko indi.
Okay, for his sake, so man foog ma ne dinaa mun a répondre si wàllum Sénégal seen autorité la moo tax mënuñoo ci ñi nga xamante ne ñoo nekk di def business yéen yi, parce que am nañ soo xoolee tamit suñ frontières yi lu naan border si engrais dañ naan ñun Gambie ak Sénégal dañ naan porous border. Yenn saa yi da nga am sa benn tànk biir Gambie benn tànk biir Sénégal. Léegi lii buy xew bu dee dañ amoon naka tudda border bi nga xamante ne is controllable, ni ko ne di nga gis ne li nga xamante ne mu ngi dugg fii nii di wala di génn biir Gambie ak Sénégal gars yi dinañ ko mun a contrôler. Waaye Sénégalais tamit boo xoolee si journal yi di nga gis ne seen autorité yeneen saa dañoo dem ay guddi fekk ji ñi nga xamante ne ñu ngi si biir àll bi ñu téye leen. waaye léegi nu gars yi defee liggéey bi moo doy waar, parce que ñoom bu gars yi dem uti banta yi nii dina xam yoon yi fi nga xamante ne foofu la soldats yi di leen ñëw fekk si ak fi nga xamante ne am na temps yi nga xamante ne soldats yi ñu fay nekk. So ñoom dina am ay intel mooy ñoo xamante ñooy communiquer ak gars pour mun a faciliter li nga xamante ne mooy.
maanaam xamal leen ne bu leen aw yoon bi soldat yaa ngi taxaw fee di leen xaar.
exactly
waaw te border bi kenn mënu koo contrôler.
ba pare tamit boo xoolee yeneen place bu nga xamante ne oto bu fa duggee soldat dañuy téye dañoo jël saret. ñu eb ko saret fu mun a dugg oto dafa mun a dugg. waaw so loolu moo nekk yeneen station yi nga xam ne moom la gars yi use.
te itam maa ngi fàttale ko 2018 first Sénégalo-Gambian presidential summit ci Gambia fii Adama Barrow mu doon wax ma ki ne ko ñun Gambia fii ñun xam nañu fu gars yi di jaar xam nañu seen dépôt yi fan la nekk xam nañu ñuy jaay bante ñun mën leen dimbale ba trafic bi daal mu stop kon mu mel ni Sénégal lu ñu nekk di def loo xam ne yàgg nañ ko déggoo nguur gi la waaw.
Yeah, there are.
That's great. So let's move on and in the fight against corruption also in the Gambia here, one aspect that every Gambian is asking himself is the National Development Plan. You remember people were gathered along the streets when they came all the way from Europe, jubilating, has bring on Gambia. Many people were even saying simplistically that why not share that money directly to somebody and make people rich? Okay, so years after, where is the National Development Plan?
Yeah, and then there's one quote that I will never forget from the president during his talk, saying we have mobilized a lot of money from Brussels. When the money come here, the goats, the sheep, the hens, all will feel that there's money in the Gambia. But unfortunately, I believe somewhere in last year, during the budget speech of the Minister of Finance, he was asked about that 1.7 billion, I believe it's US dollars. Where is the money? Only to realize that only 10% of that was committed. Remember, this money also does not come for free. These donors give funds based on KPIs, key performance indicators, and based on benchmarks. The government have to meet certain indicators and results for them to get that money. Let's say, for example, constitutional reform is part of it. We know the administration have zero interest in terms of making sure this constitution that was thrown to the trash by the parliament for it to be resurrected the way it is. There has to be some compromise based on certain provisions that they believe is against their interest. So
meaning the donor will not take his money, send it to the Gambia, knowing that a new constitution that will guarantee transparency in the use of that money is not here. So they won't send that money here.
Well, I tend to believe that part will be one of those benchmarks. But donors also, their monies come with conditions. They will not give 1.7 billion at a go to Gambia. At the end of the day, there is no result. There has to be some institutional setups, right? And frameworks that will ensure that once this money is in, there is a guarantee that it will be used judiciously. Let's say, for example, the issue of anti-corruption, right? When the money is to be given, if, for example, if the government have to make sure there is a strong anti-corruption and oversight institutions. Right now, oversight institutions are very weak. So these are things that have to be reformed. And then I don't think the government has been making a lot of improvement in this. So if certain, benchmarks, remember, these are committed funds. They're just commitments. It's not. There's no guarantee. I think that's what the president fails to understand. That when the money comes, everyone will feel that there's money. It's a commitment, but these commitments are subject to revisiting based on looking at how the administration is moving. If the administration is not promising based on performance and service delivery, then if I am supposed to give you 1.7 billion and I know that 1.7 billion that I'm supposed to entrust you to give to your family, when I give it to you, you will mismanage, I wouldn't give it to you. So you will have to convince me that there are steps, there are preventive mechanisms for maladministration and fraud, that if I give you this money, it will be used judiciously, because that's a lot of money.
Talking about oversight, it's like we only have maybe the National Audit Office, we have the Ombudsman, we have National Assembly. Is this suffice? Is this enough to oversight the government?
Well, that's a very good question. I think our oversight institution needs to be revisited. Let's say, for example, those that are supposed to do oversight role on state-owned enterprises. These are one of the areas that have been grave concern to Gambia's fund service.
In fact, they absorb a lot of
they are very weak oversight institutions in the fact that, for example, look at the Public Enterprise Committee at the National Assembly. There is accountability there at the National Assembly, but the accountability stopped at where? Correction and answer. Provide me this information, I don't have it. We will provide it to you. And that's it. But how about some of these information that they have already given to you that you already have the evidence that there are massive maladministration, mismanagement, and then let's say, for example, the institutional capacity. You already have this fact. What are the accountability measures that you're supposed to take place? So that is lacking at the National Assembly. And when it comes to the National Audit Office, some of these institutional audit that they have done, I mean, we've seen the report that come from NAO on institutions. Once the report is given to National Assembly, it takes a long while for them to consider. And once it is considered, the recommendations that are in that particular report is not executed. So sometimes we tend to check how effective. We spend a lot of money in auditing. Once we audit, the auditors present their recommendations. No implementation. So that lack of implementation creates the avenue for there to be lack of accountability. And when there is a lack of accountability, you're giving perpetrators the leeway to do whatever they feel like doing. Because nobody's going to have accountable.
Them.
Exactly. Yes. So that the environment that we have literally encourages corruption.
And it goes worse when you have National Assembly members themselves deciding that from the budget they should get loans. You sue them to court, but apparently it hasn't yielded the results that you expected.
We still hopeful that the judgment which is supposed to be given on March 17th, that it will be in our favor. We got our injunction rejected because the court said it's not a proper case, and they will give the full reason in the final judgment. So we are hopeful that the court will rule in our favor, because we believe we have presented a strong case.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about the Gambia Public Procurement Authority. Do you think that they are free? They are independent?
That is a very good question, and I don't think the authority, as its name implied, have that authority to control certain procurement. There are so many single sourcing that has been done, and so many contracts that have been awarded to companies without proper procurement procedures being followed. So,
in simple terms for our viewers, it is an authority that has been created to avoid somebody in the public service or an office or an institution just getting up one day and say, okay, IFRAC would give a contract to Mahanyang, without going into, not even being sure that Mar would perform or would come to what we expected to get from that contract. Yes.
That encourages favoritism, and I believe that's the reason why we have an authority that is supposed to regulate such. Because if I know you and you have some service that you provide, but there is a company that can provide that service better than you, and it's more cost effective. But because of that relationship that we have, I favor you on top of that, and then give you a service that you cannot deliver to the highest standard. And if you look at our roads, I was just analyzing this Canifing Estate Road, right? That was being erected. I don't know the company that was doing that, but as the work was going on, after they've just, if you drive somewhere between the mall towards the end that goes to D Block, the road has already been erected. Within a month, it started developing potholes, and I mean that's not a quality road. And then if you drive between Iceman towards the former APRC building where NDMA is, every year there is maintenance, and that maintenance really sucks. Yeah, and this tells you the quality of work that is being provided, and vis-a-vis the amount of money that is being given for that particular work to be done. So the authority, the procurement authority, the independence that it needs. There is a GPPA Act, Gambia Public Procurement Act of 2014, I believe, which I believe has to be revisited and then empower that authority a lot. I mean, but then also the authority also needs to audit itself by ensuring some of these procurement officers who have been opening companies, right, when there is supposed to be a bid for a certain project.
That is real conflict of interest.
There's conflict of interest. So because they know the amount of money that is, that comes with this contract, so they will go in and open a company in the name of their brother or their family.
That's very unethical.
And, yeah, I mean, we've also seen procurement officers go into companies and then or service providers telling them these are facts, right? This is the contract we have. We want you to do so and so printing or so and so construction at this rate, right? But you will have to inflate it on your invoice, and we will make sure we give you the contract.
Kickbacks.
At the end, kickbacks, yeah. At the end of the day, let's say for example, if a quality road is worth $10 million and you are asking a kickbacks of $2 million, right? That's 8. So that have compromised the quality of road that's supposed to be given. And then that 8 million is not 100% of it is not going to go into the construction of the road. Some of it will have to go through recurrent. Paying and the profit that the company is looking at. So that's the reason why some of our services that we see are really substandard.
And equally, you have in the same law you mentioned just recently, the 2014 Act, the president can just get up and say, hey, in this institution, you don't need an authorization for you to award this contract. If the president does that, it's legal.
I mean, it has to be revisited again. We cannot actually give the president certain, executive autonomy to decide who gets which contract, at what level of accountability, and at what environment. In fact, if you look at the Kligat's definition of corruption, it says corruption happens in a situation where there is monopoly. And here we're talking about the executive the president having monopoly to decide, having the discretion to decide who gets what in an environment where there's no accountability. Because if he has that monopoly to decide, I'm going to give this contract to this particular person, there's not going to be any accountability. And who's going to, do we have the institution that is going to question the president based on some of his, we don't have those oversight institutions, right? The checks and balances that, I mean, even at the parliament level, the president, who's supposed to be coming sometimes to adhere to certain procedures at the National Assembly, is not observed. Normally what he does is send the vice president or send some ministers. And
do your organization and the civil society work with the Gambia Chamber of Commerce, with the investors in the Gambia to see that this is, I just said, this is done?
We have not yet engaged the private sector in this kind of partnership. Normally what we do, let's say for example, when we're reviewing the anti-corruption bill and then all the anti-corruption frameworks in the Gambia, we do invite these business communities and then economists as well to also have their buy-ins, right? Because corruption really affects all of us, and the procurement officer will tell you 80 to 90% of our money goes into procurement, and it is between the government and then the private sector. So there has to be a triangle conversation that will be going so that everyone is on the picture and they know the dangers of this particular craft that is affecting our economy and the lives of the people.
Let's take the last question.
Man maa ngi tudda Samba Diop maa ngi bëgg a laajte Mr. Marniang ndax banta yi ñu doon jëlee Casamance di ko isi fii nii si réewi Gambia ndax ñu ngi ko export ba léegi di ko isi fii nii si Gambia ba pare tam maa ngi laajte ndax nguur bi yéeg nañ loolu noonu ak lan lañ si defagum booba ba léegi.
A very good question. I mean, let me respond in Wolof then English. Wow. Bante yi nga xamante ne ñu ngi ko jëlee Casamance du koy andi biir Gambie nguur gi xam na ko boo déggoo Frédéric mun doo wax ne président baa noo wax Sénégalais ak ñoom Macky Sall ne ñoom xam ne ni bante yi fan la gaay day jógee ban yoon la gaay day jël ak tamit naka la day ñëwee ba si foofu te ñoom mun nañ ko stop so nguur gi dee indi picture Gambie dafa nekk li nga xamante ne naka tudd dafa stratégique pour nga mun a trace dara because soo xoolee suñu yoon yi nii la yëpp nii la at the end of the day yoon boo mun di jël benn highway bi ngay result so gars yi government bi xam nañ ko waaye tamit dañ dee am ban yi nga xamante ne government dañ ko dee teg waaye for example président Barrow dafa joxoon ban in February ne dañu war a stop exportation of Rosewood waaye months down the line ñu gis ministre of environment daf dee mun a bypass boobu noonu baan di joxe ñi nga xamante ne ñoom ñoo yoree
dañuy wax ne borom bantay ñoo leen wax ne ñoom lu ñu denc balaa baan bi ñoom lu ñu dencoon dafa bëri nañ leen may ñu export wante lii xew mooy balaa ñuy export loolu daf day am na ñu ñëw toogaat foofu noonu
loolu yëpp ay wax la rek because ñoom government si boppam xam ne ne loolu ay wax la booy amee baan bi mu ngi effective nit mu ñëw rek mu wax leen waaw ñun naka tudd bante yi amoon nañ ko ba pare xam nga wax bi mooy lu nekk di xew si ron moo feeñul right daf dee am ay kickback dañ dem mun a ay jël kon nu ma ko waxee woon fii nii moto yi nii nga xamante ne am ay wala conteneur yi de am yi nii naka la gars yi dee mekkee seen yoon to the port every checkpoint wane ko seet te xam nañ ko so loolu moo nekk de réalité bi mooy
te pare bu ñu ñëwee fii sax dañ leen defal kayit bu woon ne banta bi jógewul Casamance waaye Gambia la jógee
exactly so dafa doy waar government mi they are aware ba pare tamit ñu fa nekk ñoom tam xam ne gis nañ tamit ay vidéo yi nga xamante ne government seen boppam ñu ngi engage in audio yi nga xamante ne government yi ñu ngi engage in massive corruption di jël ay bribe so loolu moo nekk one out of the many li nga xamante ne moo feeñ waaye government seen boppam ñoo dee facilité yi nii suma ko
mu ngi laajte tam ndax banta yi ba léegi ñu ngi ñëw te xam nañu fan yii
ba tey ñu ngi dugg di génn ba tey lu yàggoon ñu ngi dégg ne container am na container bu gaay siis
22
waaw fii 22 containers right bu gaay siis fii nii Gambia Port Authority waaye kon dafa delluwaat su lu ma wax rek mooy ba tey business bi baa ngay daw parce que business bi nekkul ñu ko ba tey nekkul dafa bénéfice ñi nga xamante ne ñoom leen xam si business bi waaye tamit ñu nekk si biir nguur gi ñoom dem na leen dañ si dee benefit.
To end this discussion, what do you think should be done to help combat corruption? Generally, when people talk about it, when the awareness is raised, when those who are involved in corruption know that they are watched over, people are watching at what they're doing, generally it tends to reduce. In the Gambia, we have a problem with the access, for example, of information bill that is still stagnating at the National Assembly, the whistleblowers. At some point, some civil servants started saying, hey, it's not good. And they were releasing some documents. But we've seen the Minister of Information, the spokesperson of the government, all over the media getting angry that, they should not do that.
But why would they be angry? And this brings us down to the lack of political will to fight against corruption. I mean, in other governments, they encourage whistleblowing because it is through whistleblowing that you will get to see some maladministration that are going in the government, and you are able to put a stop to it before it gets out of hand.
That is, you are a civil servant, you see that there is cheating or corruption in your ministry, you are afraid you're afraid maybe to report it through the legal channels, and that they might fire you or they punish you or they do whatsoever. But you find other means to let the public know.
Definitely. So that is the lack of political will and interest that this government has in combating corruption. If we have a serious government that is committed to fight against corruption, not only by words, because we've had in the National Development Plan that good governance, transparency and accountability is one of the things that they prioritize. And then we also hear from the President's manifesto, the coalition's manifesto and some of his speech that they are, the presidential speech at the National Assembly, that they are committed to fighting corruption, We've been hearing that was over and over and over again, but we haven't seen an action, right? The actions are lacking. Effective actions that are taken by the government to ensure they end corruption. Because if this government is, committed in fighting corruption, ask you one question. Since this government came into power, have you seen any corruption case before the National Assembly or, let's say, the court that is led by the government to prosecute someone else that is alleged of corruption? None. And these corruption cases that the government is aware of involve the government, officials.
Even the family of the president himself. Yeah.
Exactly, all the way to ministers. So, but then what happened? Redeployment to to the foreign service, administrative leave, or debunking certain information. If the government is also committed to being transparent to us, remember, there is a contract between this government and the people, and the contract ends in every 5 years. That's why they have elections. And the government or the president will go back to the people and beg for their votes. But they manipulate our votes because you promised us transparency, and your White Foundation have received $35 million
from China.
From China, TBEA. Months or year down the line, we've seen a contract awarded to TBEA.
Yes.
And questions raised, no answers. So it takes belief, commitment, the political will, and seriousness for our government to fight corruption. I will give you one country, for example, that is Republic of Korea, right? When they started the anti-corruption initiative assessment and prioritizing corruption, look at where they are. They have rapidly grown. Corruption is one of the elements that retard development in Africa. And if you look at China and other countries, one of the highest sanctions on corruption for public officers is what?
Death sentence, yeah.
Or life in jail. So at the end of the day, they are frustrating the environment for corruption to take place. And as a result, everyone is going to be mindful about what you do and what you take. And as a result, everything you do is going to be in the interest of the people. On the contrary, here, people see government as a self-enriching mechanism. And as a result of that, we have people that have been advancing in a speed that is 10 times more than the speed of the advancement of the government and the development plans. And that's the reason why development always is on standstill. Those that have traveled the Gambia 20 or let's say 10 years ago, to be friendly, if they come back here, they will see the same thing.
Marjan, we thank you so much for honoring our invitation, and we hope to get you very soon in our studios.
It's always a pleasure, and I'm also always happy to be back here.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Viewers, so thank you, and let's meet together, or let's meet in a week to come. Thank you.